The night was as dark as ink, and the sea roared like a hungry lion. Captain Moresius stood at the front of his ship, squinting into the blackness. He was trying to guide his large vessel, filled with precious spices and fine silks, into the busy port of Alexandria. The waves crashed against the sides of the ship, tossing it back and forth like a small toy. The sailors held on tightly to the ropes, their faces wet with salty spray. They all knew the coastline near Alexandria was a very dangerous place, full of hidden rocks that could tear a ship apart in minutes. They were so close to safety, yet danger was all around them. The captain wished for just a little bit of light, a single star to guide him. But the sky was covered with thick gray clouds, hiding the moon and stars completely. He could hear the sound of waves breaking ahead, a sure sign that land was near. But was it the safe entrance to the harbor, or was it the treacherous rocks that had claimed so many ships before his? The wind howled in his ears, making it impossible to hear the shouts of his crewmen. Every sailor on board felt a cold knot of fear in their stomach. They were lost in the darkness, and the powerful sea was not their friend tonight. Suddenly, a terrible crunching sound echoed through the ship. A collective gasp rose from the crew. The ship had struck something solid and unmoving. It was one of the jagged rocks hidden just below the water's surface. The strong wooden planks of the ship's hull splintered and broke, and icy seawater began to pour in. Captain Moresius knew his ship was doomed. The disaster was a stark reminder to everyone in Alexandria that the sea was a powerful and unpredictable force. The entrance to their magnificent city was a death trap for sailors who arrived in the dark of night or during a fierce storm. The news of Captain Moresius's shipwreck spread quickly through the city of Alexandria. It was a sad story that people had heard many times before. So many brave sailors and valuable goods had been lost to the dangerous coastline. Merchants worried about their shipments, and families worried about their loved ones at sea. People began to whisper and then talk loudly about the problem. They all agreed that something needed to be done. A city as great as Alexandria, a center of trade and knowledge, needed a way to make its harbor safe for everyone who wished to enter. It was a problem that needed a big and brilliant solution. The ruler of Egypt at that time was a wise and powerful king named Ptolemy I Soter. He heard the stories of the shipwrecks and the pleas of his people. He understood that for Alexandria to remain a great and wealthy city, its harbor had to be safe. Ships brought goods, ideas, and visitors from all over the world, and they needed to arrive without fear. Ptolemy wanted to create something that would not only solve this dangerous problem but also show the world the power and glory of his kingdom. He looked out at the sea from his palace and imagined a guiding light, a beacon of hope for all sailors. Ptolemy summoned the most brilliant minds in his kingdom to discuss the issue. He didn't just want a small fire on the beach. He wanted something magnificent, something that had never been seen before. He needed an architect, a person who designs buildings, with a vision as grand as his own. His search led him to a famous Greek architect named Sostratus of Cnidus. Sostratus was known for his clever designs and his ability to build incredible structures. The king explained his idea, a colossal tower that would hold a bright fire, visible for many miles out at sea. It would be a true wonder. Sostratus was thrilled by the challenge. He and the king walked along the coastline, studying the currents and the landscape. They chose the perfect spot for the tower, a small island called Pharos, located right at the entrance to the harbor. Building on an island would be difficult, but it meant the light would be seen clearly from every direction. Sostratus immediately began to draw up plans. He imagined a tower so tall it would seem to touch the clouds, a structure built of massive white stone blocks that would gleam in the Egyptian sun. It would be strong enough to withstand the powerful waves and winds for centuries. The king gave Sostratus a huge amount of money and all the workers he needed to begin the project. It was one of the most ambitious building projects the world had ever known. The people of Alexandria watched with excitement as boats began to carry giant blocks of stone to Pharos Island. The construction of the great tower had begun. Ptolemy knew this lighthouse would be more than just a navigational tool. It would become a symbol of Alexandria itself, a symbol of innovation, safety, and the incredible achievements that people could accomplish when they worked together to solve a great problem. Building the Lighthouse of Alexandria, also known as the Pharos, was a massive undertaking. For years, thousands of workers labored tirelessly on the island. They cut enormous blocks of limestone and granite, then used ramps and levers to lift them into place, higher and higher. The tower was built in 3 distinct sections. The bottom part was square and strong like a fortress, containing rooms for the workers and storage for fuel. The middle section was octagonal, meaning it had 8 sides. The very top section was a circle, a cylinder that pointed toward the sky. It was a masterpiece of engineering and design, unlike anything anyone had ever built. At the very top of this incredible tower was the lantern room. This was the most important part of the entire structure. During the day, a giant, curved mirror made of polished bronze was used to reflect sunlight. Sailors could see the bright flash of the sun from as far as 50 kilometers away, guiding them toward the harbor. At night, the real magic happened. A huge bonfire was lit in the lantern room. The fire burned all night long, every single night. The light from this roaring fire was then magnified by the enormous mirror, creating a powerful beam that shot out across the dark water. This beam of light was a true miracle for sailors. Before the Pharos, they had to navigate using only the stars, which were often hidden by clouds, or by staying dangerously close to the coast. Now, they had a steady, reliable point of light to aim for. They could see the lighthouse from far out at sea, and safely steer their ships around the hidden rocks and sandbars. The lighthouse saved countless lives and protected valuable cargo from being lost to the waves. It turned the treacherous journey into a safe passage, making Alexandria the busiest and most important port in the ancient world. The Pharos of Alexandria was so amazing that it became known as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It stood for over 1,500 years, a silent guardian watching over the sea. It was more than just a tall building with a light, it was a symbol of human ingenuity and care. It showed that people could conquer the dangers of nature through clever thinking and hard work. The idea was so brilliant that it inspired people all over the world. Slowly, other lighthouses began to be built in other dangerous coastal areas, each one a smaller copy of the great original in Alexandria. The job of a lighthouse keeper was one of the most important and difficult jobs in the ancient world. The person in charge of the Pharos had a great responsibility. They had to make sure the fire never, ever went out during the night. If the light failed, ships could crash, and lives would be lost. This meant the keeper and their assistants had to work in shifts, staying awake all through the night to tend to the massive bonfire. They had to constantly haul heavy loads of wood or other fuel up hundreds of stairs to the very top of the tower, a physically demanding and exhausting task. The life of a lighthouse keeper was also very lonely and dangerous. They lived inside the lighthouse often for weeks or months at a time, separated from their families and the bustling city. They had to endure powerful storms that would shake the very foundations of the tower, with giant waves crashing against the stone walls. There was always the risk of a fire getting out of control in the lantern room, or of falling from the great height. Because the job was so difficult and so critical, lighthouse keepers were paid very well, but few people were brave enough to take on such a challenging and isolated life. Over the centuries, lighthouse technology evolved. The Great Pharos eventually fell due to earthquakes, but its idea lived on. Instead of wood fires, lighthouses began to use large oil lamps. Then, with the invention of electricity, powerful electric bulbs replaced the flames, creating beams of light that were even brighter and could be seen from even farther away. Special rotating lenses were invented to create a unique flashing pattern for each lighthouse, so sailors could tell exactly which light they were seeing on a map. Today, lighthouses stand on coastlines all around the globe, from rocky cliffs to sandy shores. Even in our modern world of GPS and advanced satellite navigation, lighthouses remain powerful symbols of safety and hope. They remind us of the simple, brilliant idea that started in ancient Alexandria, the idea of a light in the darkness to guide travelers safely home. The legacy of Captain Moresius' shipwreck is not just one of tragedy, but one of inspiration. It led to the creation of the Pharos, a magnificent structure that saved countless lives and whose guiding principle of a light in the storm continues to protect sailors to this very day, ensuring that sea travel is safer for everyone.